there are so many parallels between people who work in tech and people who like to build Legos. 365, it's not just like a closed system, but it has a lot of extensibility points, which means it is a platform that you can just like build on top. You know what? I will skip my corporate job and I will just like do consultancy for SharePoint because it's really, really cool. The Loveable product really aims to delight users. So if it doesn't spark joy, it needs to leave. And same applies to code.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Coffee with Developers. Today with Luise Freese. She is based in Düsseldorf, Germany. She is a developer and consultant for PowerPlatform and Microsoft 365. And she owns her own web shop where she sells stickers and t-shirts. It's called PYOD, Pimp Your Own Device. So welcome, Louise.
Hi there.
Very nice having here, Louise, and I'm really looking forward to a lot of stuff that you have to tell us. But first, you have a very interesting background there. Let's just talk first about that. You seem to have a lot of Lego pieces there. Am I looking right?
Yeah, you're looking right. So there's just like a lot of Lego in here because I like to build things. So that may be digital things as in apps, but also I like just like do physical things like really invested into DIY. I like building Lego, and this really, it calms me, and also it just like satisfies my sense of nerdism. And this is the nerd credibility shelf, so that everyone knows, I'm talking to that kind of girl.
It's a tech person. She has tech crap all over, like nerdy stuff all over her place.
Exactly.
Okay, so which one is your favorite model you have?
Don't make me choose. So that is just like impossible choice. Like, what's your beloved child?
One of your
what's your beloved child is always the sleeping one. Mm-hmm. But I guess that I don't know. The R2D2 was just like a really, really nice model, but also the Porsche is very, very nice, and the typewriter. And now I look at all of them. So yes, I love them all.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the Nintendo, right? So that's one that must have been fun to build, because I'm looking at it when I'm like, if I would have time, I would probably buy that as the next set to build.
Yeah. So the thing is, the thing that just like rolls around, just like, so where you can see just like the landscape where Mario needs to jump around, you could just like exchange that. So there are just like certain kits and websites where you can just like buy the bricks for the underwater world, or just like I don't know what. So all the old levels that we all played, and it's just like so fun to see. So that will be most probably one of the next builds that I will complete. That is not an official set, but yeah, I got a hack systems.
Amazing. And in the last interview with the last Coffee with Developers, I had someone that said you can get to know a person a little bit better by asking them, how do you build your Legos? Do you first read all the instructions and then you build it, or do you just go step by step, just doing what you're told? What's your way to go?
So I try to first have a look at the model where it's already built. So I have a look in the Lego store. Then I just like try to reverse engineer this already in the store. Then I will buy this. Then it's sorting time. So we'll first sort every single brick by brick and by color and size and shape and everything. So it's very, very much following my OCD. And after that, I will just like follow the instructions. This is me.
Okay, so we are different in that way. I'm just like, okay, bag number 1, and then I just lay out the pieces, and then I build that piece, and I'm looking forward to what it is, which piece it is. So after a while, you're like, oh, maybe it's this, and then you're like, okay, no, cool, this is how it is. So I'm I let myself more be surprised.
I think I like to reverse engineer things. I like to know how does that work before I build this from scratch, even if I have an instruction. And same applies to building apps. So just like I like to look at a sample and just like, this is how it works.
Yeah, and what I always think about when I build one is like, wow, the person that designed this must have put so much effort into doing this. It's always when I build, like, how do they come up with, like, it must be a ton of work, I suppose. It's
It
like
is
software
a
development.
Yes, it is a ton of work, and there are so many parallels between people who work in tech and people who like to build Lego. So I once did an interview series, I don't know, 2 years ago or so, with just like lots of people who are into Lego and work in tech, and ask them, what did you get into building, and did you make just like a break between childhood and now in building Lego, and what's your favorite model, and what do you enjoy about that, and what are the transferable skills that you have from building Lego that still apply to your job, and vice versa. And they nearly all gave the same responses. And it was just like so mind blowing, because everyone loves Lego for the very same reasons. And we all do this just like to understand how things work and to put stuff together and something like that. And yeah, I'm down to that as well.
Amazing. All right. So I introduced you as you are the developer and consultant for Power Platform and Microsoft 365. I don't know a lot about the Microsoft landscape. So maybe also fill us in, what is Power Platform and what is Microsoft 365?
Okay, so let's start first with Microsoft 365. So we all know Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Maybe you also know Teams, SharePoint, something like that. Yeah. But this is kind of just like, it's just like, it's not randomly floating apps around, but this is just like an entire suite. And Microsoft built that to be in the cloud, which means it's just like Google Suite. It's just like fully operable in the cloud. You do not need to operate this on your machine. You can, however, and everything syncs automatically, which means it really enables collaboration and the common issues like, well, I do not know what is the most important task, or I don't know where's the information that I now need to find, because maybe it is in some document and there is a link, and the link links to a task, and the task has an attachment, and just like you go just like searching things. That does not apply anymore, because it solves most of those things if you use it correctly. Now, turns out, if you use it correctly, and you know users, right? So, kind of.
True.
I'm a user myself, so that is already a cool thing. And it turns out Microsoft 365, it's not just like a closed system, but it has a lot of extensibility points, which means it is a platform that you can just like build on top. And there are just like a gazillion approaches on how you could extend Microsoft 365 to your needs. I don't know, maybe you need an app for Teams that works in a meeting that, I don't know, serves your Scrum setup that you have. Maybe you need that and it does not already exist. Then Microsoft gives you the tools and the approaches, and it's like the SDKs and APIs and everything, so that you can just like build what you like in a framework that you enjoy. And if that is React, that is perfectly fine. And if that is Vue, that is perfectly fine. So you can do whatever floats your boat. And then they realize, wow, we have a shortage on developers. There are not enough developers to fulfill all these needs that all those pesky users have. And then they came up with a low-code platform. And this low-code platform is called Power Platform. And it consists of a lot of tools, just like for apps and dashboards and bots and workflows and even more. And with that, you can also extend Microsoft 365, but you can also build standalone apps and dashboards and chatbots and whatever for business use cases. And when I say low code, well, so you need to write less code. That is very, very true, because someone else wrote the code, and this is just an abstraction layer. It does not mean that it's just like self-explaining. It doesn't also not mean that it's low standards. So if you do things right, you will end up just like with about the same time that you need to spend on a project, but it's just like it's a different approach to reach the same goal. And then you can combine the low code and the code stuff and just like be even more amazing.
Cool. That sounds actually interesting. I did not know about this. Awesome. So now that we know what you do, I would love to know from you how you got there. So what's your first experience with tech, and how it evolved from there, everything that brought you to where you are at right now?
Okay, I would say it was a wild ride, because I have a background in marketing and communications. So my last role was I was a brand strategist. So I cared about the brand of the company and the features that they had. And then I got involved into a project that wanted to have SharePoint online, so SharePoint, M365, as an intranet solution. And I needed to know a lot about this because it was my responsibility to bring this information and convey this message to just like thousands of users, because they didn't know either what that was and why it was there out of some. And so I talked a lot to the IT people and the consultants who brought this into this company, and I was kind of, wow, this is super cool. I want to know more about that. And then I knew more about that, and learned and learned and learned. And at some point, it was like, you know what, I will skip my corporate job and I will just like do consultancy for SharePoint because it's really, really cool. And this is how I became a consultant, and I cared about infrastructure and security and compliance and governance and all that. And of course, user adoption, which means you want that users use your product, right? So because if they're not using that, then, well, the entire sense of making that app or making a solution is just like out of the door. So I really cared about that. But at some point I felt like, well, only talking about it or configuring is not enough. So I should really make sure that I can extend solutions in a way so that it serves the use cases of my users, which then would be my customers. So I started to learn how to code. And that was really hard because it is hard for everyone. But I did not touch tech before. So I was just like complete newbie, and I watched all YouTube videos and did so many courses, and had my little pet project so that I can just like build stuff from scratch. And at some point, Microsoft, or it appeared on my radar that Microsoft was like, yeah, now we're doing PowerPlatform. And I was like, yeah, but I can code. And they were like, yeah, that's super cool because you can extend low code with code and then just like be even more powerful.
Awesome.
So that is really amazing. And yeah, this is how I got there.
So you come from sort of a community background, right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's so okay. So that's always a great asset to have as a developer, knowing how to handle a community, right? Because nowadays, more than ever, it's what companies are looking for. And it's interesting. It's interesting that you still do this, as far as I know, for Microsoft 365 PNP, right? Which is patterns and practices. You told me just before the call what it means. Can you tell a little bit what you do in your bio? It says DevRel, but I understand it's not an official role. Can you tell us a little bit what you do there?
Yeah. Okay. So there is this community. It is called Microsoft 365 PNP, why PNP stands for Patterns and Practices, and it has a long history in SharePoint development, but over time SharePoint developed to M365, and it's just like broader now, so we want to include everyone. And we realized that there are just like a lot of people, even before I joined them, that there are a lot of people like me who struggle with getting started, who do not know, I don't know, the things that I assume everyone knows that, and then not everyone knows that. And we were just like, hey, let's put out some guidance and maybe some samples and record some videos and engage with community. And then all of a sudden, we had a really big community. And we do community call recordings and YouTube videos and daily tweets and guidance and tools and SDKs and samples and everything. And I'm a big part of that. So I'm one of the main maintainers and contributors, and they don't pay me for that, but this is just like open source. And I love open source because it has helped me to become a better developer, and I assume it will help others as well. And this is the feedback that we constantly get.
Oh yeah, so that's really amazing to that you contribute like that. So it's like an ambassador role.
Yes.
By doing that for the stuff that you work with anyways. So you would anyways talk about it, and this way you really contribute to the like core the core community resources that are out there for this Microsoft 365 thing. Cool.
Exactly.
That's
it
really
just
inspiring.
means that I just like reach more people and that more people will benefit from that. And of course, I'm not doing this alone. So once again, teamwork makes the dream work. So this is just like really a broad initiative, and with just like 50 team members, and I'm one of them. It's
awesome.
I'm just like engaging a lot.
Oh, that's incredible. Very inspiring, Louise. So now that we talk a little bit about community, our WeAreDevelopers World Congress 2023 is just around the corner. It's just a few more weeks, and then it's finally there. And also there, you are going to talk about community. Actually, you have a few different roles there. Let's start with this one. So you are going to be a panelist on one DevRel, one panel about DevRel. So how do you feel about that?
I love it. I love it because I know that DevRel is a topic that is interesting to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. So first, what is that? Why would I need it? Why don't we make more of that? So there's just like it's a lot of different approaches. And of course, when we invite just like a lot of people from different angles to share their story, then the audience might just like get just like the big picture of what that means actually, and being part of that and sharing my point of view as, I might not be the very typical developer, and also I don't get paid by a company, but still I'm doing open source DevRel. It's just like, it's an unexpected insight, and I guess the audience will benefit from that.
Yes, I think so as well. The interesting thing about always these panels is like everyone has a little bit a different idea what DevRel is or should be, and there's like always in these panels there come very interesting conversations to light. Like, oh, I think it's this. Hold on, like I always define it more like this, because there's not an official like dictionary definition what is a DevRel. It's like very, very vague, and it can be divided into a lot of things. So I'm looking forward really to be on that panel with you, actually. So we are both participating in the panel led by someone else. So that's going to be amazing. And you're also going to be moderating a few sessions there, which is very cool. Thanks again for doing that. And you're going to be, last but very definitely not least, you're going to be speaker as well. And you are going to have a topic that you do your first iteration of this topic. So the first time you talk about this on stage. Can you tell us a little bit, can you teach us what your talk will be about?
Yeah, so I will talk about the minimal lovable product, and as opposed to the minimal viable product. And I think that most devs will be familiar with that. So that one is more just like validate an idea before we throw something on the market and just like see, does that fly somehow? So is there some demand for that? And that is mostly just like an economical decision. The minimal lovable product really aims to delight users. So it is really make your users fall in love with that product. And for that, we need to just like take a few boxes, like make it remarkable. So it really needs to stand out, make it tribal. And I always compare this, would you like to get it to 2 of that? And maybe this is like a little bit high, but this is the direction in which we want to go. And next one is, so it needs to be delightful. So do one thing really, really right instead of just like trying to boil the ocean, because we don't need that. And last time, of course, it needs to be viable as well. So it is not that we throw away the minimal viable product, but just like the MLP is just like more like an MVP version 2.0. Mm-hmm. So, but it is not only progressing in terms of, we need to add more features, because users are not usually delighted by just like by adding more features, but just make it stand out and make them fall in love with that. And I really have some cool ideas on how you make that sure without over engineering your first feature set.
Yeah, I see this being a continuous struggle for especially startup founders that are adding features. sometimes features that nobody even asked for, and then they build something just because it's cool. Probably for the developers, it's very cool to build, but then it's not like, first, it's not asked for. Nobody might use the features, and then it's also, as you say, it's not lovable. It's like, yeah, it does the job, which is like good enough, but like, does it spark joy, right? Like
like
Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo. Yeah. So I'm Marie Kondo my entire life. So if it doesn't spark joy, it needs to leave. And same applies to code. So if it does not spark joy, and of course, sparking joy, that means it needs not only to run. Just because it runs doesn't mean that it's good code, right? So there are just like some more measures that we can take on if that is just like a good idea to leave that in. And usually users don't like more features per se. Just because you can build it doesn't mean that your audience, so your users, will enjoy it. I mean, you're not your user.
Yeah.
I guess we heard this before. And if we overdo apps, then it means that maybe a simple app idea, and I guess we all build it. Everyone in development builds a simple to-do app, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where we start, you can over-engineer that, and you can add just like features over feature over feature over feature, just to try out a new thing that you learned. I don't know, maybe you learn some cool CSS tricks, and then you need to just like over CSS your entire app. So it worked perfectly fine, and now just like everywhere, just like shadows and stuff. Yeah. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe it was clearer if there wasn't so many shadows. And of course, you can just like add a lot more features, and I don't know, have just like a lot of filters or views or options to share a task or whatever. But usually the core idea of, hey, I just need to replace the ugly piece of paper that I have on my desk and have that with me while I'm at the store. Maybe that idea, if you execute that very, very well with a proper design and with a proper performance and with proper accessibility, then you will be just like way more ahead of the curve than over engineering it by adding 10 more features that no one asked for in the first iteration.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to spoil anymore your talk. So I hope everyone that is listening to this or watching this can attend our event. The tickets sales are still open. So I love seeing you there. Louise, thanks a ton for all your insights, and thanks so much for being part of WeAreDevelopers. You said if it doesn't spark joy, you throw it away, and you are with us. So that just tells me that WeAreDevelopers sparks joy, which is a very lovely thing to think about.
It does.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will see you in Berlin in a very short time. Thank you very much, Louise.
Looking forward to that. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.